welcome back to the S.Bros podcast. It is Aaron and...
Armando.
Okay, we are going backwards in time to X-Men 97.
X-Men 97, the new release that Disney Plus just put out. They've only released 2 episodes at the point of this filming, so we're going to discuss kind of our feelings on these, and we're going to go into just the nitty-gritty of the actual episode itself. So, Aaron, why don't you go ahead and start us off with how you feel about the 2 episodes we've seen so far as a rehash from the 90s program?
I feel really good about it. I was a little hesitant at first because I didn't look up any trailers going into it, so I didn't know what kind of feel it was going to have, what kind of story beats they were going to do.
I prefer going in raw anyway because even prior to going in raw, there was a moment of hesitation because we looked up that clip that showed a really crappy anime. Well, not crappy. It just showed us the animation, and we weren't that excited about it. Like, why does it look like that?
True.
So we didn't go in completely raw. We actually went in judgmental to the contrary. And
at least of the animation style, which it is a little wonky. I will say that.
Well, because again, it looks like it's an Archer animation, but I guess to an homage to that style of animation, it really held true. It's just an updated version of it. So
yeah, it's not like it's bad animation.
No, it's just when I say blocky,
it feels a little stiff.
Yeah. But I'm fine with it because they make great scenes with it regardless. And
however, looking back to some of those old 90s episodes, there are some extra moves that people do that are a little not realistic, just to show that there's some more emotion in this character's acting, because that's
actually a good point. A lot of times I felt back in those earlier cartoons, the emotion wasn't portrayed by the line or the voice actor. It was portrayed by the body motion that they tried to do afterwards. And so that you're very right about that. But overall, when so you felt that it was a very good parallel to, like, it took off right from where the last one left off, correct?
I believe so, relatively. I think it was maybe a couple weeks. But it's not like I had binged the earlier show before going into this one, so
no, we watched the summary recap.
Like it mattered.
We watched the summary recap though.
Thank you, YouTube deep dives.
So Charles is gone. People are trying to pick up and live their lives afterwards.
Scott's got a lot of pressure on his shoulders.
Which, he does have a lot of pressure on his shoulders. And the thing that I think was really good that they showed us in this moment here, though, is even with they show the idea differences between Scott and Jean Grey.
Yeah.
Jean is thinking about, we should start a family and move on. Jean Grey, air quotes. And
we'll see what happens.
We'll see. Returning. We'll get into that. And then also Scott, who you can clearly tell is always going to be an X-Man.
Always.
He just can't. Yeah. And if anything from X-Men Last Stand, he dies in X-Men. Okay? Shout out X-Men Last Stand.
I don't know if that movie is...
canon?
Yeah, so much is happening in the X-Men world right now.
They just killed everybody in X-Men Last Stand. Oh, okay, but hold on. We're going back to
because there's some rumored story beats for the Deadpool movie about... So when a primary hero of that timeline dies, it kind of kills slowly the rest of that timeline.
Okay.
So, for example,
because he's like the guardian of that timeline?
I guess so.
Okay.
So, we'll put that in air quotes.
Yeah.
So, for example, if the MCU's Tom Holland dies, then that universe will start to unfold. And so, I guess what's happening, so to speak, and I'm not saying Tom Holland is. I'm saying that this is the theory of like how to put it in frame of mind. Someone is going through and killing primary heroes, and so Deadpool has to go and either save them, or it's something that has to do with that type of storyline.
Okay. We'll go back because I actually want to talk about that. That feels slightly contradictory to the rest of the storyline, and I'll explain my point to that later.
Okay.
But that debate for that quintessential canon idea will be an interesting one, I think.
Okay.
So now, as far as because again, when we were little kids, I remember loving this show.
Yeah, it was amazing.
I remember playing X-Men Legends on the GameCube and being like, man, this feels like I'm playing the show.
That will always be one of my favorite games of all time.
Now, if we're going to talk about how this is, because I'm also a big fan. This show won me over immediately. The first episode when Scott drops out of the jet and he's well, actually no. So the jet gets attacked, right? And
the jet gets, but that's not like how it starts.
No.
That's after they go to the island. Yeah.
So they go to the island.
The jet gets attacked. And then they're falling, and the ones with wings catch a couple others, but then Scott just gets a smile on his face and then dives.
I'll see you on the ground. Dude, it was like G.I. Joe mixed with just, I don't know.
I don't even know.
God power. And
it was so cool.
Yeah.
Using his optic beam to slow his fall.
It was, So,
and then the way he used his optic blasts during the fight scenes were so cool. Way better animated, obviously, than the 90s show.
Yeah.
Just because of the technical capabilities that they're able to pull off nowadays. But I loved it. I loved how he was able to use that fluently throughout the fight.
I agree. I'm going to hit pause in 3, 2, 1. So Scott comes beaming down from the jet.
He lands, and then he does that really cool, to me, my X-Men.
And then the part that I also think was really cool when they take out all the Sentinels was when Storm calls bring the forecast. And when Scott's up, Storm, bring the forecast.
She turns the desert to glass.
And then just shards it to kill all the Sentinels. That was some of that stuff that you did not get in the first come out season, at least not like in that regard.
And that little comment from the Sentinels when their sensor goes off when an Omega level mutant shows up, I loved it.
You're like, oh crud, and dude, so that's my favorite.
Spoilers, but just makes that heavier of a hit for next episode.
In episode 2.
Still blows my mind that they did that.
Yeah, we'll try to keep this in the episode 1 spectrum as much as possible for this first little.
Well, for the first little.
I mean more in this section of our conversation, not.
Not this episode.
Yeah, I don't want to give out too many because there's so much to cover in episode 1. When they go and they actually like Gambit jumping on Wolverine's back. And making and again like the
he didn't even flinch.
No flinch, dude. He's just full on sprinting. Another dude jumps on his back and makes his claws get all gambited.
And it's not like that just ends at his knuckles.
No.
His whole skeletal structure probably was.
That's what that would have been. That I hadn't thought about that.
Without flinching, just took it.
Yeah.
God, Wolverine's so cool.
Jumps on Morph, who turned into the Blob, and takes off the head of the Sentinel, and then they do a little flash to them after the battle, and he's all like shirtless and everything. Like Wolverine's nude a lot, and like even in the opening song. Yeah. In the opening song, they have him just hairy. And just exposed. In like boxer briefs. Dude, it's so weird.
It's good.
Yeah, I love it though.
If it was Hugh Jackman, no one would care.
No one would care, but
people don't care now.
No, they don't. Because again, having like the same voice actors for this stuff, you get a mad respect for it. It brings a lot of respect.
I've seen, like, nowadays, just while I'm doing stuff in the background, I'll put on the original X-Men show. And kind of hearing the voice actor for Wolverine, it's the same dude, by the way. They brought back there's 4 original voice actors. They've got the guy for Beast. They've brought back Rogue, Wolverine, and...
Well, upon my research of fact checking that seemed very accurate, and there's not really anymore. So you pretty much had it all. So,
anyways, but I like the more rugged voice when it comes to a Wolverine character.
Well, that's also who I had always imprinted on. Also,
and you can really hear how young he is when in the original cartoon.
That's funny, actually. Yeah, because that was always who my gauge of Wolverine was.
But he's not rugged in the original cartoon. In the video game. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. Why did I think that then? He just has a younger, deeper voice?
There's a few video games that have... Oh, maybe it is because of the video games.
Maybe. Because even in the 97, his voice is like...
It's rugged because he's old.
Yeah, that's true. Well, I mean, he's old technically even in 90... And even prior to the episodes in 97. He's technically an old guy.
I mean, technically...
Dude, you remember the Vietnam scene, or not the Vietnam scene, the Japanese bombing scene where the nukes go off?
The Japanese bombing scene, the Vietnam scene.
Yeah, he's been through wars.
He's been through some shit.
The So yes, and
Wolverine is very much older than the Professor.
yeah, and
Whoa.
you don't really.
I remember that revelation when watching the first X-Men movie.
Dude, those movies, and honestly, we can even go back and give like the shout out to the fact that that first X-Men movie is really what paved the way for the possibility of us ever having any of these other things. The fact that that was so cool.
Yeah.
So now first episode again, they go and they take out because there's still a Sentinel problem.
Still a Sentinel
Still a
problem.
Sentinel problem.
Always
and,
going to be.
So they go and they try to take out the last bits because they find out the main Sentinel people, whatever their names are, make a bigger, badder one, and they they're using it again to try to kill the X-Men. That's just
apparently
what they do.
in the original cartoon, there's a few of those.
Happens a lot, dude. That's just what they do. So then at the end of that episode, Magneto gets left the X-Men, the Xavier's Institute and all that.
The Last Will and Testament is a massive book.
Hot Magneto. It's such
Daddy Nito.
Yeah, Daddy Nito, dude. They made that such an interesting animation style to make him. Again, he looks like
ripped.
Like when the Beast from Beauty and the Beast turns human again.
Because let me pull up
he's
a
like
quick.
this Gaston.
You're right.
He's like 100%. This Gaston looking dude. So.
Let me pull up a picture of the original looking Magneto.
Put it on the screen, dude. Put it on the screen.
I'll put it on the screen.
Yeah, so the original Magneto, and they even made reference to what was that video we watched where they were talking about, because in the second episode, which we're just going to segue right into it, that helmet, Magneto refers to it as the thing that blocked Charles from reading his mind.
I always thought that.
I also thought that too, but originally in the animated series, that nothing protected him from Charles's mind. So,
which is fascinating.
Yeah, it's interesting that they put that kind of weight on there, but hey, shout out to Gandalf.
Dude,
so.
Daddy Nito has always been there.
Dude, it's so wild. Yeah. But with the updated animation style, he looks so much more. He's so much more. That's hilarious.
God, I
but
love
yeah,
it.
and what you would have thought couldn't have been topped in the first episode, they really do just. I mean,
substantially topped.
Like, I'm trying to think if I can remember much of the prior to the Magneto scene of like the standout parts for me, but honestly, the Magneto going to court scene where he was just talking, trying to plead his cases to reason why he did this and show that he's remorseful to it.
That
trying to live
took
up.
Over the episode.
Yeah, everything else was just kind of okay. I'm like, whatever. But the sexual tension between Rogue and Magneto.
Oh my God, poor Gambit.
But the people who the reviews we've watched of this breakdown already are right. If you watch the old animated series, we were just kids and didn't understand some of the references they were.
There was no reference to it being the Holocaust.
Yeah. But I mean, even that. I mean, the innuendos and everything that they do in there. Of course, we were children. We weren't gonna know that those things were what was happening. Like, we wouldn't have picked up those references. Now that we're older, it's like when adults watch Shrek. Yeah. They're like, they're like, oh wow, they're really getting away with some racy stuff there.
Even when I was watching the very first X-Men movie as a child, I remember that prison camp scene.
Mm-hmm.
I also remember the room getting tense when it was on, but I didn't understand what about it made people
uncomfortable.
Yeah,
because it was
turns out.
Yeah. Well, because again,
for good reason.
But in all the early comics and everything like that, it was just an oppressive government military. Yeah. It wasn't specifically the Holocaust.
Correct.
So, but I mean,
because then that's stuff's for kids.
But again, that'll get into like when we go into our next.
I'm glad that they're able
segment.
to touch on it now, because there's a lot when we were growing up that people kept in the taboo section of like you just don't talk about it. I remember our giant shelf of VHSs, how there was a sheet over it because in case anybody came over.
I do remember that. I do remember because we don't want to. I remember when Mom and Dad loaned The Princess Bride to the Sterlings and then had to go down there at the end and be like, hey, I'm sorry, we forgot that he said son of a bitch in it. And so
oh my gosh.
Matt and I were talking about that when I was in Oregon. He's like, yeah, my parents just thought it was really nice. So it was like, yeah, I thought, yeah, it was, dude, it was. You're welcome. Like you just get to look at this from a different lens now, which is cool.
Yeah.
Because that's the thing that's really helpful in the translation to this in this new adaptation is because the stuff from the 90s cartoons is so hard to replicate. Yeah. And they like evoked all the emotional tie to it. It was exciting. The action was awesome.
Yeah.
They do a really good job at still engaging with the older audience.
The Executioner dude.
Yeah, the Executioner was awesome. But again, I think him choosing to wear anything with metal while he's going to try to assassinate
It's weird.
Magneto.
It's weird.
Like, no planning went into that. You know who you're there to fight, which means
he might
you
have
know
been
he's
hoping.
there.
He might have been hoping that that worked, so he could demonstrate that he has no power over metal anymore.
Okay, maybe.
He could have been hoping for that.
Instead,
but
it went
he
horribly wrong.
Oh,
It went horribly wrong for him.
God,
So.
but dude, as soon as he ripped the judges out of their seats and
And
brought
took him
them
up to the atmosphere. Yeah.
there was so much emotion in and you really felt that like he should drop them. He should get revenge. This is exactly what Magneto's been talking about the whole time. But then he chose the high road.
He did.
And for Charles.
For Charles. And that's something that I really like that they keep on kind of going back to, is they're really getting like the essence of their friendship and everything.
Yeah.
You know, and I think that has to do with a lot of conscientious decisions from some of the creators. And like I said, we'll go into that in the next segment. But I think that the fact that, and I guess the reason why it makes it so much more incredible is because every single time we get adaptations of childhood stuff, it sucks. Because it's always going off of what's kind of culturally the norm.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, the idea...
You know what's crazy? Magneto, he's white, isn't he?
He is white, dude. I'm glad we didn't get, a black Magneto.
He kissed Rogue, didn't he?
He did kiss Rogue. He kissed a girl. He
Whoa.
is a straight
Whoa.
white man.
Whoa.
He's a straight white man.
Who's not a villain.
He's not a villain, dude. He's
Whoa.
a hero. I'm actually kind of impressed that they took this stance. But I mean, you can't.
It's okay. They might make Wolverine gay.
They might, dude. You know, I don't want to. I really hope not. I really hope not. But I guess my opinion about that is because the essential idea of the X-Men mutants getting like persecuted, that idea is a social issue. They're talking about like people who don't necessarily look different but are different because they have mutant powers, and so like it's always
been used as a placeholder for like what's happening in society.
Yeah, and so if you went any more in that direction, it would be too much.
It'd be noticeable.
Yeah, you wouldn't be able to watch that. Like you'd be like, okay, this is kind of wild. Like why is Wolverine wearing a dress? Okay, like that's not what I'm here for. I'm here to watch him take his claws out and take his shirt off like he does every.
Their name is Wolverina.
Yeah, Wolverina now, dude. Yeah. So I think that it's nice having some trust reinstilled in these things.
And what happened because of it? It received 100% on Rotten Tomatoes,
which is wild. So I'm very excited for the next episode to be released. Can you
think of, off the top of your head, if there's ever been a Marvel project in the last 20 years that has gotten 100%?
Find me another Marvel project that's even gotten 100%. Because
I don't know if any Marvel...
I was gonna say, it's like I don't know if that's been possible, but I will also say
I'm gonna look that up real quick.
When I googled that too, like I guess it was that rating was also at first only based off of like 45 verified ratings. So I don't know if that's true. I needed to look more into that, but I always find that funny. I was like, yeah, I got 100%. 45 people said it was amazing. So I was like, oh, okay, good. That's not quite the same.
All right, so you're right. The critics are only 48 people.
That's hilarious.
And they've given it 98. However,
that's fine.
The audience reviews of over 250 have gotten it to 92%.
That's incredible. That's incredible.
Absolutely incredible.
So top tier Marvel stuff.
It probably would have done better if it had appeased the Latin American community.
Again, we'll get into the controversies, dude. Don't worry. We'll get down into that. So, I mean, this segment has been going for now 20 minutes.
Wow.
So that the summaries, and I feel we touched on pretty much all the cool stuff that we had in this. So
yeah, I cannot wait to see. So to wrap up this segment, then I cannot wait to see what happens with Storm after her losing her powers. That really surprised me. I loved that.
Do you remember what happens in the character arc of that once she loses her powers?
She goes off with Forge.
Okay, gotcha.
They do something.
Gotcha.
And he does some stuff with his leg and his powers and whatever. I don't care.
Okay, she'll be fine.
She'll be
like a freedom fighter in Wakanda.
Yeah, whatever.
Okay, gotcha.
I am curious what happens with Jean because do you think that the one with us is Jean, or do you think that the one on the doorstep who showed up is Jean? Because they named the child Nathaniel Summers, who grows up to be Cable, and that's never. In the original show, it was never really like exactly confirmed. And so how do you feel about if that would actually be the descendant of Jean or not.
Oh, for me, I don't have any problem with that. Again, we're talking about multiverse stuff. Anything can happen.
Yeah.
Like, so for me, as long as it's as long as they make it a story that I can buy and that I believe.
So Cyclops would be the dad for sure. But
so the part where you're asking the original question of which Jean do I think is the Jean for this show, I think it's the one that's with us because
you think that's the real Jean.
Because when Jean, who answered the door? Who answered the door?
Morph.
Would the real Jean know Morph? Because remember her line. She's like, "I need the X-Men."
The real Jean would know Morph.
So that's kind of my.
Oh, okay, I see what you're saying.
She called them. She's like, "I need the X-Men." So you don't know that you're there.
That's true.
So, but again, who knows what condition she arrived there in? There might be an explanation for that, which they have my trust. So
okay.
they
whatever
have my
they
trust.
decide to do.
Whatever they decide to do, dude.
I'm doing no research into this show.
I kind of like doing it.
I love
the
going
research.
blind.
I'll do the research after the episode before we do these episodes here. But
that
for
way
the
it's
most part,
spoiler free.
Yeah, I prefer it that way. The spoilers can be a little bit nuts. So whenever the next episode comes out, they have my trust. I'm excited for it. I can't wait.
So
but you said like you want to know what happens with Jean. You want to know what happens with Storm.
That's it.
Okay.
I love Wolverine.
Do you want to love Wolverine?
So I guess then for the next segment, we should talk about like what were some cool things you found out about the behind the scenes or how they made this or.
We don't have to explain that though. Like I'm going to cut that off because there was a long enough pause before you said that. And that'll be like, I'll insert us saying goodbye and farewell. And what we'll do for that is because that's the end of a segment. And then
like an episode?
That will be the summary part is what we put on YouTube, I thought. We'll decide how we do it, but again,
I'm so confused on how you want to structure the episodes.
Well, and so like what we'll do, and
so one episode will be titled the summary and the review, and then later we do another episode uploading on YouTube.
Like technically speaking, this is S.Bros talk.
How we felt about the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
technically this is S.Bros talk.
I'm totally fine with that.
Yeah, and totally then it's because like when you were describing to me what Mr. Sunday Movies does, it's all one episode, but they're doing
all one
different
channel, but different episodes. Yes.
Yeah, and
the terminology is what confused me along. Yeah.
Obviously, it confused me as well. Okay. So but no, basically now our next section is the loose change. Because it's loose because there's no change.
I've got some things that you would actually find very cool about some of the cast.
Yeah, and I'm probably gonna keep all this in anyway because why not?
Are you still recording?
Yeah, I'm still recording, dude. We're talking about our creative process on our new channel.
Oh, okay? Well then let's loose change.
We're going. Okay, hold on. We gotta pause first. So I'm gonna silence for the pause.
Name's Cyclops. Hang tight.